Alright, so welcome to Photoshop. So today we're going to be going over 3 methods to sharpen an image in Photoshop. But first, why sharpen? So all cameras come with what's called a low pass filter. Not all, but most come with a low pass filter. That low pass filter helps get rid of grain at high ISOs or noise in your camera, but as well it softens your image. So if you have Canon, Canon really uses a lot of it, and they definitely need more sharpening than, let's say, a Nikon or a Sony. So one thing you should be advised of is sharpening is dependent on the size of your image, all right, and how much you want to sharpen it. So it's giving you that hard contrast or that edge detail. You don't want to sharpen skin. So why would you want to sharpen? There's nothing there to make sharp. I mean, it's just skin. You want to keep that smooth, so you don't want to add texture to it. So usually sharpening is done on high contrast areas. So the edges between the eyebrows and the skin, wherever the difference in tonal value is great. So right here on the edge of the lips, or right here on this edge, or right here on this edge, all right? That's what you're looking to sharpen. You're not looking to sharpen the background or the skin tones or certain areas like that are bland. So we can go to this image. We don't want to sharpen the background. We just want to sharpen that texture to bring it out and give it that pop. So what are the different methods to sharpen? And so this image has already been sharpened, but we're just going to go ahead and sharpen again. It's not a big deal. So the first one we're going to go to, and it's confusing because it doesn't make any sense, is called filter. And then you're going to go to sharpen, but then to unsharp mask, which makes it sound like you're going to make it unsharp, but really you're sharpening it. This is the oldest method. This has been around in Photoshop for a long time. The settings I have are up here. This is actually my settings for 2024 pixels for social media. All right, so the amount I use is generally around 30, but sometimes it goes down to 25. And that's the higher the number, the more sharpening you're going to have. So radius, I keep it at 1. So how many pixels from an edge do you want to sharpen? Do you want to sharpen 2, 3, 4? I just want radius of 1 pixel. So I'm just that edge. And thresholds is difficult to explain, but I kind of talked about it here. Thresholds of 3, if you think of it as values of contrast, meaning that there's a difference in shades of gray greater than 3. So right here where the values are all the same, it's not going to sharpen. But right here where the eyebrow's dark and the skin is light, that's greater than 3 steps in a grayscale, so it's going to sharpen that edge. So it's looking for contrast difference. So the higher the higher this number is, the more the contrast needs to be to sharpen it. The lower, the closer the values need to be to sharpen it. So once again, this all depends on your image size. So if you have an image that is 5 by 7 at 300 pixels per inch and one that's 16 by 20 at 300 pixels per inch, your sharpening amounts are going to be different, okay? So just on average, I usually, when using this method, somewhere between 20 and 35 for social media, and somewhere around 50 to 55 for print sizes. So we'll just do a sharpening real quick, and you probably will barely see a difference. We'll zoom in here. All right, so I'll hit Command Z, so you can see it's just giving that a little pop. All right, we're going to go back up and go to Sharpen, Unsharp Mask, and I'm going to boost this way up. This won't look good. So now we can see the difference. So you can see it's sharpening. It's really picking up a lot of highlight and skin, and see it's adding too much texture. That's too much sharpening. So you could do one of two things. You could keep that amount, or you could go to Sharpen, Unsharp Mask. You could also boost your thresholds up higher. So it has to be an area with a greater difference. Now I'm going to hit Command Z. So now you can see it didn't sharpen any in here, but it is sharpening just on those high contrast areas. So where I had this really high contrast or sharpening amount where you really saw it before, then when I lower or increase the threshold but keep the same amount, we're not seeing that dramatic effect like we did. We're seeing it here on the eyebrows a little bit. So that is the oldest method in here called Unsharp Mask. So we'll click over to the dragonfly, and we're going to go up here to Filter, Sharpen, and Smart Sharpen. So Smart Sharpen has come out. It's been out for a long while now. So, but it's a newer sharpening method. And notice you have previews here. You can zoom in, but truthfully, I don't really use them. I'll just usually look on my image here. So we have the amount. So once again, the amount, the radius, once again, and then there's a little reduce noise here, and remove lens blur, Gaussian blur. So there's a few different methods. We're not going to really get into that. There's also some more advanced settings here where you can fade in the shadows or you can fade in the highlights. So for right now, we're just going to be doing just the basic one. Just this is to keep this simple. So your amount, once again, is really going to determine on your image size. Your radius should usually be around 1. I use reduce noise at the default. So as I increase this, it's going to increase the sharpening, so you can see it kind of pop in. What the Smart Sharpen is doing is trying to recognize the areas that need to sharpen. And so what sharpening is actually doing is, like, it's if the light's coming in a certain direction, like this way, it's kind of making the pixel on this side of the hard edge brighter and the one on the opposite side a little darker, and it's giving it dimension. So that's sometimes why you see these little white spots get brighter when I do this. So I'll hit OK, so the Smart Sharpen will apply. I'm going to hit Command Z to undo that. So you can see a lot of these areas got darker, right, and brighter. So if we look at these edges, zoom in, you can see that bright edge. So see it disappear and come and disappear. Sharpening's really just adding like depth to it. It's not actually really sharpening, it's just adding a highlight and a shadow dot to it to make it look like it's sharper. So that is Smart Sharpen. And so the last method, now you have to make sure when you're doing this that you're on an image layer. All right, so an image layer, if you're working with multiple adjustments, this isn't going to work. So usually when I do this method, I will flatten my image. So I'll go up here to layer and flatten image, and so it's just one compressed layer. This is like one of the last things I do. So make sure you size your image as well. So don't sharpen and then size your image. Size your image, then sharpen. And that goes for all these methods. It should be the very last thing that you do. And for our third and final sharpening method, we're going to do something called high frequency sharpening. So this one is the most complicated, and what I will do is I'll actually do an action here. So I'm doing this off screen just so you know, but I am creating the action, and I'll have this available for download. So I'm going to go up here. So just give me a second here. So here's the new action. So I'll call this high frequency sharpen. And we're going to put this into that just because it's going to make it easy. And I'm going to hit C function key, no, sharpen, we'll make it blue. So I'm going to go ahead and hit record now. So it's going to record everything I do. So the first thing we're going to do here is hit Command J twice, all right? And so this is going to be called blur. We'll call this sharp. So this is kind of a little odd. So we're going to take this blue or blur layer, and I'm actually going to go here to blur, Gaussian blur, and I'm just going to generally make this at 5. So this should, you can see, is actually blurring this image. Alright, so here's the high frequency sharpening part of this. So what we're going to do is click on the sharp layer, and we're going to go up here to image, apply image, and notice I've got these layers. So I want this layer to be, I put blue, but it means blur. So we're going to try the blue layer, and then we're going to hit 128. Now you can see the subtle part of this image showing up. That is showing the high contrast or the contour lines of the image, and this is the area that's going to be affected by this method. So we're going to hit OK, and then we're going to change this blending mode to linear light. You can actually toss this layer now, so you can go delete. Alright, so now we can see this is our blending, so we are sharpening. So I'll turn this on and turn this off, turn this on and turn this off, or all on now, and the other was off. Alright, so we can lower how much of this sharpening it is. So right now it's at 100%, so if I lower this, it's going to add less sharpening, and if I increase it, it's going to add more sharpening. And just like anything else, you can create a mask on this and designate where this is going to be happening. So we don't need any sharpening in this background area or on the skin here. So I can paint that area out. Let's say I don't want this out of focus hair to be sharpened, because why would you want out of focus hair to be sharpened? If I don't want the dress to be sharpened, I can do that. So right now it's just up here in the skin. So I can actually take it out of the skin by just painting black into the mask. So that way it's only really happening on these kind of hard edges. Now you need to make sure you don't paint over your hard edges if you were to do this. And so I will increase this once again, and we'll zoom in here, and I'll turn this off, on, off, on. Alright, so that is the high frequency sharpening method here. I will save this action, and you can download that on my website. Alright, so if you do use this action, I suggest that you flatten your image, size your image once again, and then run the action. It will create those two layers and do this, and it will leave you with just the sharp image here. And then I'll do it so it automatically adds a layer, a white layer mask. And then if you want to go in and paint and take stuff out, so like right here, if I want to take it out of this hair right here and take it out of the hair there, which actually is distracting, we can do that. So hopefully this is helpful. Please subscribe to the channel and leave any comments below. Always looking for ideas on the types of videos that you're interested in watching.